Rightio, so now to go through how to do this on your calculator. At the moment I'm just in the e-activity screen, so that is from the main menu, you're just going to e-activities like this. And this time I'm going to insert a main strip. So insert strip 1 main. And we have basically an empty screen. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the keyboard and I'm going to go into Math 3. I'm going to use these square brackets right here. And in those square brackets, I'm just going to put the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 for now. Okay, with commas separating them. Now the commas can be found down the bottom left-hand corner of the keypad. Okay.
Attention staff.
Sorry for the interruption there. So I've put the first bracket in. I'm going to store that as, and I'm going to put in another square bracket there. And in this one, I'm going to put in. Now I'm going to go into the ABC tab. I'm going to go X into Math. I need to scroll down once so I can get the subscript 1. Then I'm going to put a comma, go back into ABC and get a Y, and then put the subscript 1 on that as well. So X1, Y1, and then X2 and Y2. It's really important that you're careful when you're typing these in so that you get the subscript and not one that's like in the middle or the superscript or anything like that. Anyway, once you've done that, just hit execute. So put that first line in. Now that's just storing 4 values in the calculator as our coordinates. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get it to calculate the gradient. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to choose the fraction, and I'm going to put in, if my calculator will let me. So y2 minus y1. You could alternatively just write this in. I think it's a little bit faster to do it this way. Divided by x2 minus x1. And I'm just going to store that as m because that is the gradient. So hit execute. So what it's telling me is that the gradient between the 2 points I've entered in, 1, 2, and 3, 4, is just 1. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the distance between points. So I'm just going to write in d equals. You can use a capital D. I'm just not using it in this case because I have d stored as something else. So that's my reason for using a lowercase. So d is equal to the square root of, and I'm going to do x2 take x1. Oops, that didn't copy it. Right. Let's try that again. There we go, and that's squared plus, and then I'm going to take the y2 take y1. Drag it down here, and then square that as well. So d is equal to 2.82. If you prefer, you can change it from decimal to standard, and it will actually give you the exact value there, 2 root 2, which is perhaps better for a methods situation. Now notice I haven't stored that as anything, and the reason for that is that I don't need to use d again for anything else. The next thing I'm going to do is the midpoint. So I'm going to go capital M, and again I'm just calling it capital M equals because I don't, actually no, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to use this later on. So I'm going to go into Math 2, I'm going to get a matrix, and in that I'm going to put 2 fractions. In the first fraction I'm going to put x2 plus x1, so I need to change that to a plus sign, and that has to be divided by 2. In the second one I'm going to put y2 plus y1, so again change that to a plus, divided by 2. I'm going to store that as xm and ym, so x mid and y mid, and it tells me that the coordinates of that would be 2, 3. Well, that's pretty handy. Okay, we're almost done here. So the next thing I'm going to get to do is to calculate the equation of the line. And I'm going to just rearrange that y take y1 equals m bracket x take x1. So I'm going to write in y equals, and then go to action, transformation, expand. And then it's m, which we stored m as the gradient earlier, multiplied by x minus x1. And then plus y1, because I've just moved the minus y1 over to the other side of the equation. And so the equation of the line passing through those 2 points is y equals x plus 1. And the perpendicular bisector, now I might just call this PB. And we're going to go expand again. And it's quite similar, but this time the gradient is -1 divided by m. That's just rearranging the m1, m2 equals -1 formula, multiplied by, I'm just going to copy this part down, but instead of x1 and y1, I'm going to make it xm and ym. And there's the equation of the perpendicular bisector right there. So rather than, you don't write PB, obviously I'm just leaving that there so we know what it actually is. The equation is y equals -x plus 5. So the beautiful thing here is that all we have to do now is put in the 2 points that we had in our problem, and we can check all of our answers except for part E. So this is going to work for me. There we are. So I've got the points -3, 4. And 5, -6. And all I have to do is hit execute and it runs through and does everything. So the gradient is -4/5. Let's just check our answer. Yep, that was correct. Okay, so next thing. The distance is 2√41, correct. The midpoint is 1, -1, correct. The equation of the line is -5/4 x plus 1/4, correct. And the equation of the perpendicular bisector is 4/5 x minus 9/5, which is also correct. So this did all of it except for part E, which we could make another E activity to do that, but this one should cover you for most situations. And all you need to do now is close the E activity, or I'll just put the keyboard away. I'll go into the strip here and call it coordinate geometry. Now you would do this by bringing up the keyboard and just typing it in from here, okay? And then clicking the save button. I've obviously got a couple named here already. I'd just suggest calling yours a number like 1, for example. If you go save, then that'll be saved on your calculator and you won't have any issues with losing it or anything like that. If you have to reset the calculator, you can just load the program again and it'll be all good. So that's it. Obviously, having this E activity makes life much easier, especially if you encounter a question like that where it has multiple parts to it. All you have to do is put those 4 numbers in at the start of the activity and hit execute, and it will tell you everything about it. Anyway, I'll see you next time.